the idea of ordering our desires, ordering our loves,
Right.
that ought to be what education is about, right? In other words,
Right.
to train a young person
Right.
to love the right things,
Right.
or to like the right things, or to desire the right things.
Yeah. This is a good deal of what I teach my students. Because when you have disordered desires, even if they're not evil desires, immoral desires, satanic desires, even if they're just worldly desires, you will find perdition. And I'll give you a perfect example. This gets us back to St. Thomas. Thomas, the great behavioral scientist of 1265 in the Summa Theologiae, he said that there's four idols. That there are four idols in life. What we really want is God. That's what we want. But God, it's kind of inconvenient. There's a lot of cumbersome rules and one-sided conversations. So a lot of people want to take a little shortcut with some things that have kind of divine characteristics. And those are idols. And he said, furthermore, he asserted, and he's completely right, that there's four of them. Each one of us falls prey to one of these idols in particular. And if you know what your idol is, then of course you're moving the experience of the craving to your prefrontal cortex and you're governing that idol, and you'll save yourself a whole lot of grief. He didn't talk about the prefrontal cortex, so they didn't know it existed at that point. But that's what's actually happening. The four idols are money, power, pleasure, and honor. And by honor, he didn't mean, two of my kids are Marines and they serve with honor. But that's not what he meant. He meant fame, or the admiration of the world, the adulation of the world. Money, power, pleasure, and honor. And he asserted, and he's right, that we like them all, but there's one in particular that beguiles each one of us. And that's the dark one works through that idol to distract us from the thing that we really want. And you have power. I play a game with my students called What's My Idol? So that they know. They have to read a little Aquinas. These are my students at Harvard.
Yeah.
Do you want to play?
Do I want to play the game?
Yeah.
I was hoping we might. Yes.
You want to be a contestant on What's My Idol?
Do I have a choice? It's like I feel like I've lost control here. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to lose control. It's your show.
No, go ahead.
Eric.
Go ahead.
It's your show.
Yeah.
So here's how the game works. We're going to find Eric's idol, which doesn't mean that you're subjugated to it. On the contrary. It just means that in your weakest moments,
I
that's
may
the
be
thing to keep
aware
an
of
eye
it
on.
as an idol.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And everything that you regret in the past will always somehow be traced to that idol. This is the uncanny thing. When you think about a relationship that you neglected, a corner that you cut that you wish you hadn't, it'll always have something to do with that idol.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the way you play is that you don't say what your idol is, you eliminate what it's not.
Right.
In order.
Yeah.
Because one of those things you really don't care about, generally speaking, that's the case. And when you eliminate something, it doesn't mean you don't have it at all. If you eliminate money, it doesn't mean that you're poor. It means you're the most normal person in the world. And if it's your idol, normal's bad. But if it's not your idol, normal's fine.
Right.
Is what it comes down to. So let's start with the one you would eliminate first. You got to kick out one. What's the one you care about the least, or maybe even actively dislike? Money, power, which is persuasion over other people. These are not evil things. Pleasure, which might be comfort or security.
Yeah.
And the adulation of the world. Which one do you kick out first, that you care about the least?
This is very hard.
This requires a spiritual retreat, actually.
I was going to say, it really is.
But this kind of is,
It's
isn't
fast. Well, it's interesting because it does make you really think. What are your okay? So money is one.
Yep. Power, which is the
power,
which is the not the control over other people, but the influence over other people. Influence. They do the things that you think are right. That you have, right? Pleasure is clear. We talked about that. But pleasure also encompasses comfort and security.
Comfort.
Because it's important. A lot of people are like, I don't need to feel good all the time, but I sure as heck want to, tear down my barns and build bigger barns and fill them up so I can, there are a lot of people like that out there.
Yeah.
Or comfort. I'm not trying to get high all the time, but I sure like sleeping in or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the adulation of the world.
Yeah.
So which one do you give away first?
I am mystified by how difficult this is for me. I think, let's say, pleasure and power, I would say.
Those are the two.
Those are pretty easy to say, like, that's not my thing.
These aren't your things, and if you had the average amount of pleasure, you'd be okay, and comfort and security, you'd be okay. And when it comes to power, now I actually believe power, and the reason is because it's not like we've been, we palled around as kids. But I know about you, and you're an entrepreneur. You probably hate people having power over you, is my guess.
I never think of it that way, actually.
And people who dislike power and who kick away power, they don't like actually being under the thumb of anybody else, and they've lived their lives that way. So entrepreneurs are always like this. Entrepreneurs say, look, I got a lot of persuasive capacity. A lot of people do what I say, but that's the one I like the least. That's the one I like the least. I'm an academic. I hate power because I'm an academic because I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. This is really what it comes down to. People who love power and that's their idol, they admire dictators. Because you admire people who have your idol. Who have your idol as well. So I believe it. Now it's down to resources and adulation. So which you got to get rid of.
Well, the
one.
resources, like when you talk about, you say money, right? I think of money as power. Right. In other words, you can have a healthy attitude toward money. You say, well, I want that so that, I mean, because I'm trying to raise money for all these projects. It's not so I can get a boat. Or it's because I think, man, these are wonderful projects.
But you just told me that money's not your idol.
Money.
You just told me money's not your idol. And so you kick that away next. And part of it is because you see money as a resource to do good things. As opposed to, Eric's that rich guy. That's not, it's like,
but I mean, but then when you talk about honor or adulation or something like that, I think I also have, I mean, maybe I've had to deal with that because I do know what a dark temptation that is for a lot of people. They say, well, I don't want to say this because I'll lose the regard of that group, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut on this or this or this or this. But it's fascinating to me, really, that Aquinas, 800 years ago, just says there are four.
Therefore, and these four are pretty all-encompassing. People in our line of work, generally speaking, the idol is honor. Generally speaking, and that's we do what we do for good reasons. I want to glorify God and edify people. I really want to, but at the same time, I have to recognize that there's ulterior motives and there's human frailty that comes into this. Mine is I'm you. I would kick out power. I would get rid of pleasure. I'm perfectly fine. I mean, it's like money's great, but money's just money. But man, I want people to like me. And I know perfectly that when I've cut the corners, when I haven't spent the time with my children when they were little that I should have, when I haven't given my love and attention, when I've neglected my prayer life for a day or two, it's always because I'm seeking that shiny thing in the world of people liking me. And I could go into all the social science about how the brain is wired for people who have this particular idol. I know it. I've done the work. But the bottom line is I got to watch that. I have to watch that because I don't want to cut corners.
It's funny when you talk about honor, or you phrase it that way. I'm writing a book right now about the American Revolution. And so
you're pro or contra?
I come out as pro-American.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a bold stance.
I come out against tyranny ultimately.
Anti-tyranny.
But So but the reason I bring it up is because there are two figures in particular, George Washington and Benedict Arnold, both of them for whom honor was everything. And it's fascinating to watch, to look at the characters of these men and to see one of them follow it to perdition, as you put it. It's fascinating because honor really meant everything to Benedict Arnold. And so he was very, very great. And it led him astray.
And he was completely principled in his pursuit of what ultimately was incorrect, what was wrong. Is that right?
He was principled. I don't know. It's a fascinating case study actually because it's actually heartbreaking because you see this. I mean, you could say the same looking in the scriptures at Lucifer, the fall of Lucifer. Well, it's because he was, so great that the temptation was there. You see this with people, right? If anybody who has a tremendous gift, it's very dangerous because that gift can,
because that turns to pride. and pride.
Yeah.
So the Luciferian case is really interesting because, where, of course, he speaks Latin because, the devil speaks Latin, where, he says non serviam.
Yeah.
Non serviam. I mean, this is the ultimate thing. I mean, this is the ultimate conceit of humanity.
Yeah.
Non serviam. I will not submit, which is and it's not clear in a lot of in these cases. That's the reason I asked about Benedict Arnold. Was he saying non serviam, or was he saying serviam, but to a different authority based on his moral principles?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I think, anybody, if we're honest, we would say that if I feel that I haven't gotten my due, I deserve this, I deserve that, and every time I get screwed over, and it's finally I've had enough.
Right.
That's kind of his story. He was,
Is that right?
Yeah, he deserved over and over. But it's fascinating. It's like there is a kind of dark thread that's always there with him. And where does that come from? But it's always there that he makes enemies sort of wherever he goes.
Really, he was a problematic person.
His father was, this is now in Connecticut, right? His father was an alcoholic, and the father was publicly denied communion at church. It must have been humiliating for a young man to see your father, kind of become the town drunk. And I think that he thought that with his own extraordinary gifting, he would lift the family out of shame and poverty and stuff. And so he did tremendously well as a merchant. He's in New Haven. He buys several boats, and he's sailing around the world and making tons of money. And if you're a merchant in the colonies at that time, you have to be a smuggler. In other words, you have to be eluding the British government was often, asking you to pay duties and stuff, and pretty much everyone didn't.
Right.
So it was in his best interest, to join the Sons of Liberty and to stand with those on the side of liberty. But I don't know how this happened that you're interviewing me about my future
This
book.
is super interesting. I can't wait to read the book. I'm getting a preview on the book.
But
You'll actually be on my show about this book, and we'll talk about my stuff.
but what's so fascinating, because he was all in, and there was no one who was more heroic and successful militarily than Benedict Arnold. I mean, it's fascinating. But eventually at Saratoga, he injures himself horribly, and it leads to him getting a desk job in Philadelphia, and on and on and on. But he, over and over again, he gets treated poorly, he thinks. And nobody knows at what moment he basically says, okay, I'm gonna go to the dark side.
Yeah.
Of course, nobody thinks it's the dark side. I mean, Hitler didn't think he was doing evil. He thought he was doing good.
Well, this is the question always. We attribute venal motives to our opponents so that we're sincere, and they know they're the baddies, but they're the baddies nonetheless. I mean, this is always how we look at history retrospectively, but it's also how we look at political debates today. People on the opposite side, well, they're capable of any terrible thing because they're low integrity people, is what we say. Now, looking inward at ourselves, we're complicated. We're complicated individuals because we're fallen, we're sinners, we're men and women. and what Aquinas would say about probably Benedict Arnold, but certainly any of us, is that when we sell out our own principles, we have principles, we want God, and we will sell out our principles when we're beguiled by the idol. And what is the idol? It's the presence of the dark one. That's the keyhole through which the dark one comes into our lives. And when we know that, then we got power. That's power. That's godly power.
You mean when we know what our
is.
particular temptation would be, because we can guard against it.
So look out. Here's the irony. We're such prideful creatures. Dante and Virgil, they find that Satan half frozen to his waist in a lake of ice.
With Brutus, Judas, and
the traitors.
There are three of them.
The three
Brutus,
traitors. Brutus, Judas, and
can't be Benedict Arnold because he was after 1300 AD. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Cassius? I don't know.
Yeah, and then Dante's, the schoolyard bully, and from Dante's elementary school experience or something like that, probably. It's like,
Right.
It's
yeah.
like he made his way into hell,
right.
in the inferno. But the whole point is that this pride that we have actually will even turn our idols against us, because you'll find the idol that you don't have and make that a source of pride. You see how I live with nothing?
Oh.
You see how much I don't, see how non-hierarchical I am?
Right.
You see how I lift up everybody and,
Right.
and everybody can call me by the first name even though I'm the head of this hedge fund? You see, see that's where he's so good. Look, the devil's so good at his job.
That's
He's
good. You
so
should
good.
write a book about this.
Yeah.
You should think about it. Just think about it.
All right.
Promise to think about it.
I promise to think about it.
If you think these conversations are valuable, would you do us a favor and please like this video and subscribe to this channel? When you do that, you help us get these conversations out to a wider audience by telling YouTube that people are interested in this. Also, you can go to SocratesInTheCity.com, sign up for our newsletter, and you can check back every week. There's new stuff here every week. Thank you for tuning in.